and heavy runway 26, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 26, heavy lift, you know you have it.
Welcome to the Aeropedia Podcast. I'm Ashwin.
And I'm Peter. And today we have Deanna Dow with us. Deanna is the Director of Airline Partnerships at Informa Markets, where she helps amplify the Roots brand, and is a board member of the Edmonton Regional Innovation Network. Before joining Informa Markets, Deanna was the Manager of Air Service Business Development at Edmonton International Airport and worked at the University of Alberta International Office. Deanna holds a Master's of Business Administration and a Bachelor of Commerce with distinction in International Business and Marketing from the University of Alberta. So Ashwin, if you could start the dream route, any route you want, what would that route be?
Oh, wow. This is an exciting question. I would definitely want Deanna to start a route from the North Pole straight to my chimney on Santa Claus Airlines. So let's see if she can make that happen.
Sounds good.
It's so good to have you. So as we start off with every guest, let's talk a bit about your background, how you got into aviation, and your professional experience.
Thank you both for having me here. It is a pleasure to be speaking with you here today. I would go back to my very first flight is how I got into the excitement of aviation, and that was when I was 6 years old. And that was a flight from Edmonton to Tel Aviv, and we got to touch down in New York, not necessarily get off the plane, but touch down, and even just seeing the Statue of Liberty from the sky was amazing. And then running up and down the aisles as we were waiting for more passengers to board the plane. So after my very, very first flight, I was fascinated by international business and how the world is connected through aviation. So I specialized in international business relations for both my undergrad and my MBA. And during my MBA, I did exchanges in Scotland, Israel, Germany, and a study tour in China. Right after graduation, the university to come work for them as part of a consortium of the top 10 research-intensive universities in Canada. So there I placed students from all over Latin America into these Canadian universities. And in 1 month, I had done 16 flights in 30 days. So it was a lot, but it was fabulous. And then opened up the head office in Ottawa. And then they asked me to come back and work specifically for the University of Alberta in the international office, doing international capacity development projects and programs. And there worked all around the globe, visiting different destinations, talking with the governments and corporations to do short courses and training. I remember one flight took me 44 hours to get to Cape Town from Edmonton. And I was there for 4 days and then a long haul journey on the way back. So I think I was more travel time than actually being in destination, but they say it's about the journey, that's for sure. From there, I thought, what's more international than the University of Alberta International? And I couldn't think of anything more international than the airport at that time. So there I started as the Manager of Air Service Business Development, and I was there for 6 years, where I expanded routes and capacities and secured multi-million-dollar agreements and started a lot more nonstop service. And it was a very interesting time during the pandemic working for an airport. Seeing an airport deserted was like nothing else I've seen before. And then after that, I took a 2-month break and was like, what's more international than an airport? How about a global company that facilitates air service development, that has conferences all over the world, but still in the aviation industry. So you'll hear later on, once you get in the aviation industry, it's very, very hard to get out. So I definitely knew I wanted to stay in aviation and thought I can work remote and help facilitate air service development through large scale events. Networking and relationship building in this industry is paramount, and Roots definitely provides that platform. That's a bit about me and how I got into aviation.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds like a really fun background, and you've gotten to travel so much, right? So let's talk a bit about the Roots brand itself, right? It's very well renowned, but could you walk us through, what services they provide and all about the conferences and the events and what does Roots do in general?
Yes, definitely. Roots is is part of a larger umbrella organization called Informa Markets. And then under Informa Markets is Aviation Week Network. So Informa Markets does events, digital services, academic research, but in various different sectors. Any sector, you name it, they probably do it. But they champion specialists, connecting business professionals, and their mission, I guess, is learn more, know more, and do more. And then under that is Aviation Week Network, and that focuses solely on the aviation industry. And they do journalism, data and analytics, world-class aviation events, and marketing as well. So other brands that do fall under Aviation Week Network is CAPA, which is a Center for Aviation, ASM, they're the consultancy arm, and they do airport strategy and marketing, the Roots brand that I am with. And then there's ATW, which was Air Transport World, and then GAD, which is Global Airport Development. And their key directive is know, predict, and connect. So know from the news and the information that they put out there, predict from the data, and then connect at our events. And I think COVID taught us that face-to-face is imperative. So it was decimated, our events during the pandemic. We did do online and whatnot and pivoted, but it's that face-to-face connection that really helps build those relationships. Roots particularly puts on 5 conferences a year, and they're held in key markets around the globe. So we have Roots Asia, Roots Americas, Roots Europe, Roots World, and then we have Takeoff North America. So for example, in 2024, they were in Langkawi, Malaysia. For Asia, Americas was held in Bogota, Colombia. Europe was in Aarhus, Denmark. World, which is coming up in October, will be held in Bahrain at the United Arab Emirates. And then Takeoff is in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And Takeoff specifically is for airports that have 10 million passengers or less, which is fabulous because they get that face time with those airline network planners that they might not get at a large scale event like Roots World. What's fantastic about the Roots events is that they are in different places every year. So you get to experience brand new cultures, cities. The destinations get to show off their destinations to airlines and key decision makers. 2024, we are in Perth, Bahamas, Seville, Hong Kong. So really great to experience. The regional events usually have around 1,000 attendees, and World tends to attract about 3,000 attendees, and it's always growing. Takeoff is in the hundreds, so it's a lot smaller scale, but extremely important. What's fantastic about the Roots events is that they really are a platform for providing networking, education, and meetings. So through our conferences, we have receptions where you get one-on-one time. In a less formal setting, you get to interact with airlines, airports, tourism boards. And then you have the conference program where there's tons of learnings to be had there. And then meetings. So it's basically like one-on-one speed dating sessions. So they're 20-minute meetings with the airlines, airports, and tourism boards. And airports can meet with other airports, which is important because when you're trying to get a brand new route, if you're going at it from both ends with both airports aligned, that strengthens the proposal. The tourism boards meet with the airlines. The airports meet with the tourism boards because a lot of the time the tourism boards have the funds to get that new route. We also have an exhibition as well at our conferences. So there's consultants, industry providers, government organizations like ICAO, you name it, we have it. IATA, we're all partners. So it's really that one-stop shop for air service development. And they really unite the global aviation community and allow for that collaboration, innovation, and shaping the future of global air service development. I know from when I attended the airport, some personal experience, and attended a lot of air service development conferences, Roots was extremely robust and well attended, and you were just able to accomplish so much with having everyone in that industry or sector together all in one place. It makes things very efficient.
That's amazing. All those events and all those opportunities to connect. And I think for our listeners, it will be eye-opening for some, how much work goes into a new route and facilitating that. It's not just we're
we're just going to start this. There's a lot of behind the scenes engagements, and you guys do a great job connecting those constituents. Switching or focusing in on the World Routes Development Forums, could you share with the listeners a little bit more about what the objectives of the World Route Development Forums are?
Yes. Routes, the very first one started in 1995 in Cairns, France, and it's been growing ever since, adding on the regional events. But the primary objective is really to facilitate those strategic discussions between airlines, airports, tourism authority. It's a fantastic forum to connect industry leaders, foster innovation. It's really that great exchange of ideas and best practices back and forth, which helps drive innovation. You think that it's a competitive industry, and it is. But really at the Roots events, they're there for learning. And when you talk about sustainability on panels, everyone wants to help each other because everyone wins. A rising tide lifts all boats. So it's great that you are able to have meetings with airlines to airlines and share wins and learnings from each other. It really promotes economic growth. So the development of new routes creates extreme economic growth for the cities, for the airlines, etc. So you're also able to address industry challenges. So it's a great forum for addressing current challenges that are happening and opportunities within the aviation sector, and working together to foster solutions for the entire industry. And a great way to enhance market understanding as well. So talk about market trends, passenger behavior, emerging opportunities that really help inform strategic decision making. It's a great opportunity for the host destination as well. So the host usually pays to have the conference hosted in their city. And it's because, and they're willing to pay for this because it's an epicenter of the event. They have the opportunity to showcase their city and the airport to the airlines, and they really get to see it firsthand. So it's definitely good profile building for the city where the conference is hosted. For example, past Roots events took place in Istanbul, Las Vegas, Milan, Adelaide, Guangzhou, Barcelona, Chengdu, Durban, Chicago, Las Vegas. So the list goes on, and really great opportunities for all of those cities to show airlines and partners what their city is all about. We did do a third-party economic impact study to see what the economic impacts of a Roots event, Roots World specifically event was. And in the short term, it increases GDP by about 3,095,000 jobs. And then the long, we're looking at about 1 to 3 years, is 156 million and over 3,000 jobs with the facilitation of new air service and just the amount of attendees that come to the city as well. And then from surveys that were done, more than 55% of the world's new air services are connected to meetings that have taken place at Roots event. So you can clearly see the impact from our conferences is substantial.
The list you gave, there's some great examples there where the air services has really, evolved over the last few years. And I was thinking about Istanbul and Chengdu. Right there, you have two airports that have absolutely grown at breakneck pace, right? And so kudos to the Roots conferences. I mean, this seems to be a real stimulator out there, right? So I wanted to touch specifically on your role as well. So, in your role specifically, how are you forming these strategic alliances with the airlines, and how are you exactly bringing value?
Great question. So in my role, I've been in the role for about 6 months, a little over, and I'm the director of airline partnerships. And it's really, really neat what Roots has done. So we've usually not had very many director of airline partnerships, but they wanted to focus on having an airline partnership director in the regions that we serve. So my role is specifically to look after all of the airlines in the Americas. We've just hired someone in Japan to look after all of the Asia airlines. We have someone in Europe, in London, that looks after all of the Europe files, and then Middle East. So we're all spread out around the globe and trying to find a meeting time for all of us to meet at the same time is is fun. So I've taken calls at midnight before just so the team can get together. And we just came back from a strategic retreat in Dubai to make sure that we're really serving the airlines and they're finding benefit and in our conferences. So in terms of providing that strategic value to the airlines, it's working with the airlines to understand the needs and objectives of each airline partner. Each airline has different objectives, has some aircraft on order, doesn't. So it's understanding where they're at in their cycle and identifying their goals. Is it new markets, optimizing existing routes, enhancing passenger experience? And then once you understand their needs, is offering tailored solutions to it. Is it attending every single one event, or is it being choosy and selective on which events of the 5 that we put on to pick? Through ASM, so the consultancy arm, they have access to market data, passenger intelligence, industry trends, which help provide actionable insights and strategies. So we work really closely with them, with our airline partners. The Routes events itself, when we're there, facilitating conversations, having high-level dialogues between the airlines and key stakeholders is really important. Making those introductions. If I know an airline is very interested in meeting an airport, really working closely with our commercial team to ensure that that airport is present and giving them a heads up, hey, this airline wants to have a meeting with you. I highly recommend attending. We have great airport attendance. But then it's that continuous engagement all year long. We have feedback sessions at the end of each conference with airlines just to see how it went while we're still at the event, and then take those key takeaways and improve our events. And then just providing airlines with regular updates and responding to the ever-evolving needs. So we also have a Routes 360 platform, which is kind of like a LinkedIn for our Routes events. There, the airlines are able to update what their objectives are or what they would like to see in the meetings. So sometimes these airlines are having over 45 plus meetings during the 3 days, and they're back-to-back meetings. So they can say what aircraft they have on order, and then the airports are able to tailor their business cases or their pitch to these airlines. So we're not wasting anyone's time. And then they can post updates or things that are happening or awards that they've won, just so the airports are in the know of what's happening for each airline. What's fantastic is that airports and tourism boards have the opportunity to meet with key decision makers from the airlines. So tourism boards always need to show their ROI so they can do marketing, but you're not always showing that direct impact or getting in front of those key decision makers. At the Routes events, the tourism boards get to sit in front of key decision makers, which is integral. And then if the schedule permits, we usually have the airlines in back-to-back meetings because the airports are always eager to meet with our airline partners. But if they are able to step away or we block their calendar, there is the conference program too, which allows for learnings and hearing from other airlines and how other airlines are doing things as well. So definitely lots of learning opportunities there. And just overall in general, connectivity has a massive benefit to destinations across the globe. It stimulates cross-border trade and business, increased visitor numbers, attracts inward investment, and supports diversity and innovation within a destination. So I can't say it enough that businesses go where it is easy to do business. So not only do the airlines benefit from nonstop service, but the airports, the cities, other businesses. So aviation does create a huge impact for sure.
That's amazing. Yeah, just more detail there for us to digest. Could you, maybe switching gears a little bit to the outcomes, the routes that get developed, could you walk us through a little bit of what the process is to develop a route and how the Informa events and things, we've heard, all the engagements and some of the data and pieces, but what does Informa provide as far as in the role of route development in the process that you can share?
Great question. I don't think that a lot of people that aren't in the aviation industry, I guess, understand the life cycle and how long it does take. So it could take anywhere from a year to 6 years. I've seen that people have been working on routes for. So it is a lengthy process. It's always I guess, entertaining when I was at the airport and we'd get emails saying, why don't you have a route to Azerbaijan, and just that education piece of what it does take to put on a route. It is fascinating and happy to speak on it because I've done that at the airport for the 6 years air service development. So, and it's fantastic that routes plays a part in every single point of the life cycle, especially with our partners at ASM, the consultants. So first off is market analysis, conducting market research to identify potential routes and assess the demand. So Routes through ASM provides all of that data and analytics and has a catchment product analyzer tool, which helps airports looking to understand where the market opportunity is for new air service. I think it's extremely important to understand data. A lot of airports are purchasing leakage studies too, with cell phone pings to understand where the passengers are actually going. If you're driving to a different city and flying out of there, that cell phone data can help educate people and then educate the airlines because they don't maybe necessarily see that. Stakeholder engagement is key. So bringing in all parties. So working with the airport, the tourism board, the government bodies to create that solid pitch and business case to the airlines is key. And the fact that all those bodies are at Routes events is extremely helpful. And the fact that it is face-to-face, so you're able to build those relationships, goes a long way instead of sending an email. And then there's the route planning. So developing detailed route plans based on the data that you get. Routes offers those insights and guidance through reports. We have daily newsletters, our consultants, so able to help facilitate that. And they're able to also help facilitate the business case development, because I would say that's the next step is actually putting together that business case. So Routes can help with data-driven insights, benchmarking against industry standards. And then you have that negotiation of the agreement. When you kind of get to that stage with the airport and the airline. And then there's slots, which is a whole separate conference, I guess, when you're negotiating slots. I won't go there. But then putting together those incentives and the marketing support as well, like you have to come with a pretty hefty, wholesome package when you're presenting to the airlines. So again, those discussions do happen a lot of the time at the Routes events. And then at the implementation stage, I remember we'd be in the middle of launching a route and just having that one-on-one FaceTime, that 20-minute conversation. We get so much accomplished even in the implementation stage when we're ready to launch a route and talk about the planning and the gate event and the logistics and the baggage handlers in that 20 minutes than you do going back and forth on emails. And then even when the route has launched and it's successful, it's still touching base and checking in with your airline partners to make sure performance monitoring and optimization is there. And then obviously the negotiation of the contract as well. So it's a long life cycle and then you get delays with aircraft delays as well. So then things get put on hold. But the multiple touch points throughout the year that you will have with an airline definitely helps keep the conversation going and doesn't let the conversations fizzle out, because you will be talking to them at these events at least once a year, which is fantastic. And we've had some really great case studies of some routes that have recently launched. So Dubai, Bogota. So when do you think that, like, it's not a very common route? So that was facilitated by the first ever meeting taking place at Routes Americas in 2018. And the service just began June 3rd, 2024. Another interesting one is Royal Jordanian Airlines at Routes World in 2019 had meetings with London Stansted and Manchester. That was the first ever time meeting. And now March 2024, service began from Amman to London and Manchester 3 to 4 times a week on the A319. Cebu Pacific launching Da Nang. So tons of examples of brand new destinations launching because of meetings that took place at Routes. So again,
great trivia questions. So the next guest better be listening. So I'm going to use some of those. That's
Love
great.
it. Great. Good. Just even from surveys that we have done, because we always have surveys at the end of each of our conferences, we had more than 91% of airport delegates believe that meetings that have taken place at Roots World have led to new air service and increased connectivity for the airport. And I can attest to that, being at Edmonton International Airport previously and obtaining routes from being at these conferences. So really, all in all, it doesn't matter what stage of the life cycle you are, it's always a great touch point at the Roots events to have that face-to-face interaction and build those relationships and partnerships.
Yeah. Wow. Talk about bang for buck. Like, I mean, if it's just but to your point, it's a very complex life cycle as well, right? I was just thinking about when you mentioned it, the aircraft delivery delays could just have a ripple effect on your route, on your slots, on everything, right?
It's amazing to see how fast things change too. So if a government, for example, implements more passport restrictions or more complications, then the route does not do well and they'll have to pull and go somewhere else. So then there's an opportunity for that aircraft to move and pivot. So you definitely always have to be on your toes and keeping up to date with information here.
Yeah. Well, if there's any industry that will keep you on your toes, this is it, right? Yeah. So based on your professional experience, right, what advice would you give someone who's looking to get into either air service development type roles, or wants to get more into airline partnership based roles?
I recommend it 100%. I didn't always know about it before when I was studying international business. So I think if I had have been in tune with your podcast earlier on, learning about these roles and opportunities would have been fabulous. So one, I would highly encourage people to continue to learn from your podcast. But on top of that, if you are passionate about driving change and connecting the world, this is the best job for that. And once you get into aviation, you really don't leave it, because it's a family. Like, you become friends with people from all over the globe. You're meeting in one location, but everyone's coming from all over the world at these events. So now you have friends everywhere in the world. So if you're somewhere, I did a month in Australia not too long ago in February, and you have your ASD counterpart or your counterpart at XYZ airport, and you can ring them up for a coffee and get locals advice on what to do. So it's great to have that network of people all over the world. It's dynamic, fast-paced. You don't get bored, which is fabulous if you're a type of person that doesn't like to get bored. But it's definitely fulfilling work, because you have the opportunity to contribute to the economic impact of cities and create those meaningful connections. Tips, I would say, building that strong foundation to gain that understanding of the aviation industry. I studied international business, but the aviation industry is a whole different business in and of itself. So understanding market dynamics, regulatory environments, who the key players are, education and training is so very important. I think when I first started, my first course was an ASM course, actually, on Air Service 101 fundamentals, and they happen multiple times a year. I definitely recommend looking those up, because it was definitely a holistic overview on the life cycle, what you need to know, who the key players are. There's over 1,000 different acronyms in the aviation community. So every time you hear one, just jot it down. I think I could have a notebook this big just with all the acronyms that are in the industry. And then it doesn't matter, I think, what industry you're in. Networking is key. Going to industry events, join aviation organization, LinkedIn channels that are about aviation, and then reaching out to people and asking them to go for coffee. Everyone needs to eat. You might be afraid to reach out to someone, but offer to buy them lunch and say, hey, can I take an hour of your time? You need to eat anyway. Can I pick your brain about XYZ? I mean, I did that a lot, and you gain so much from learning from people already in the industry. But partnerships is really, really key to the aviation industry. It's imperative that you have those relationships. Continuous learning. I'm a strong believer in always learning. You don't get to a certain point and not ever need to learn more. There's always changes happening, emerging technology, best practices, sustainability is taking off with SAS, learning all of that and speaking that language is key. Because it is such a fast pace, you have to stay current and stay updated and always reading and listening to podcasts. So just embracing that change. And then I think it's really important in this industry to get a diverse experience too, because it makes you that much more stronger with each role. So working in operations or airline management or working for an airline or an airport or an events industry, it helps you be that holistic picture of what others do and appreciate it that much more. So I think that's key. Like I loved working with our cargo folks and doing some of the cargo activities because I wanted to learn that side of the business too. So I'd say in my spare time, hey, can I help you with this event or do this or whatnot, just to get that holistic picture of the industry because there's so much to learn. But definitely highly recommend being in the aviation industry, whether it's like the baggage handler or network planning or pilot. The entire ecosystem definitely makes a significant impact in connecting the world one flight at a time.
Yeah, so thanks for that. And definitely going to have some listeners out there that are very curious about how they can get into this side of things, right? So, so we'll transition into the next segment. But this was so insightful, and we can just talk for hours about this stuff and dive deeper, but maybe we'll leave that for another time. So the next segment is more about kind of rapid fire questions, more about the skill based and experience based stuff. So the first question I had for you there is, in the roles you've had and in your current role as well, name one hard skill and one soft skill that you think is critical to succeed.
Okay, so you're saying don't ramble on. Got it. I would say data analytics. Data is at our fingertips now, and learning how to analyze that data and present it in a meaningful way is crucial. In terms of soft skill, I would say, I know you said one, but I'm going to say two: networking and flexibility, because you really need both in this industry.
Yeah, well said. Especially the flexibility aspect is sometimes, underplayed, right? What's your fondest aviation memory?
I was very fortunate to have a friend that was a huge aviation buff too, and we drove in 2014 to see the Antonov AN 225 land, which you can't do that anymore. So I'm very grateful to have seen that land. But also going to the Boeing factory just a couple years ago, right before the pandemic, with some friends, and it was extremely memorable trip. We went there literally just to go to the Boeing factory, and I learned that it was the largest building in the world by volume. So fun fact. Yeah,
it is. And I think that just the experience of an aircraft OEM final assembly line is something that everybody should see once in their lifetime at least, because we all fly so much and we just it benefits us to see the airplanes being built right there. So yeah, very cool. The next question I had was, what part of aviation do you feel is least understood by the general public, and what can they do to learn more?
If I had to pick one or two, I would go with the complexity of route development, just what it takes to get a route, but then also once you get a route, what it takes to keep a flight. So sometimes a city will get a nonstop destination, but it might be a little bit more expensive to fly on the nonstop versus connecting, and people will opt to save a buck, but then they don't realize that if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So if it's not flying at a certain load factor, they're going to pull that flight. So I think that's more education that needs to get out to the communities, so that they do realize that. And what I would love to see is more information from the airlines on the days of the week those nonstops are flying. So it's not always very clear what day of the week you do have those nonstop flights or how to look those up. So the general public doesn't know that. And I've been on numerous flights and I'm like, why are you doing two stops? We have a direct, but they didn't know when you go to search for a flight on Google Flights or whatnot, that if you go the next day or the day before, you could have been saving 5-6 hours in travel time. So there's so much that's not very clear. You just get on the plane and you think it's gonna go, but learning all the different touch points and what it does take to get a route is a lot. So that education piece is extremely important.
Yeah, well said. And the final question we had for you in this category was, You've traveled a lot, obviously. What's
Yes.
what's been your favorite flight leg experience? And tell us about kind of the origin, the destination, the airline, the cabin type, etc.
That is hard because I have taken many, many, many trips. That's for sure. I feel like my second home is on an airplane, but I love it. But I would say two really cool experiences was realizing that there was an upper deck and a lower deck to an aircraft. So flying from Paris to Tel Aviv on the 747s and getting to sit on the upper deck was really cool. And I've flown it multiple times since then, but that one was the first time. So I'd say the most memorable. But then I didn't know, so you could go upstairs on the upper deck, but then I didn't know that there was an aircraft where you could actually go down the stairs and there was washrooms facilities. So it was really, really cool to be on the Airbus A340-600, which was a flight from Cape Town on Lufthansa. And I'd never seen anything like it. So I was like, what are these stairs? Where am I going? Am I going to the cargo hold room? So to find the washrooms down there was interesting. So upper and a lower deck to aircraft.
Yeah, that's another trivia question in the making, right, Peter? With the A350 600. Yeah.
It is. I think it's
That
one
was
of the
really
few. And I think they actually, it's on a cargo, it's on a pallet. And I think that to service it, they could actually remove it to service it, if
really?
I'm not mistaken.
Well, my next dream and goal is the Airbus A380. So double deck all the way through. One day.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing all those experiences. We're gonna get into the next segment. Peter, what is that segment?
Well, it is your trivia round. So each guest gets 5 questions. And if you get them right or wrong, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We're educating the audience as well. But we are looking for somebody to get 5 out of 5. We still haven't gotten anyone to get 5 out of 5 yet. But that
I'll tell you it's not going to be me.
No, could be today. So, okay, here we go. Your first question is airplane types. So can you name the major difference between these families of Fokker aircraft? So Fokker was a Dutch manufacturer of airplanes. And in Group A, there's the Fokker 27 and the Fokker 50. And in Group B, you have the Fokker 28, the Fokker 70, and the Fokker 100. So there's a major difference between those in Group A and those in Group B. Can you guess it?
The different numbers, I would say. The major differences in any aircraft is definitely the size or the number of engines. So I'm going to say that that's probably one of the parts that it plays in differences. But to be honest, I do not know.
That's a good guess. It was engine related. So those in Group A are powered by turboprop engines. And those in Group B, the Fokker 28, Fokker 70, and Fokker 100 were jet aircraft. So
okay. Good to
there
know.
we have
I learned something new today. Thank you.
Yeah.
See, always something to learn in the industry.
It is indeed. All right. Next question. Airport related. So this city has 2 airports with airline service. One of them is named Arlanda, and the other is named Bromma. Can you name the city that these airports serve? And I'll give you a hint. It's a European. It's a European city.
Has 2 airports with airline service. I'm allowed to phone a friend to Ashwin. Is that the case?
Sure. I think you can do that. Stockholm.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Stockholm, Sweden. So there's Stockholm Bromma Airport, which is the closer in-city airport, the original airport. And then you've got Arlanda, which is the international airport, which is quite a distance out from the main center, but that's their main international. So, all right. Next question. Airport equipment. So you may have seen this at your time in Edmonton. Yes. This equipment flashes alternating colors of light to mark or distinguish an airport. there's different colors for the different types of airports. So it will flash white and green alternating colored light for civilian airports, white and yellow for a seaport, white, and green for military, white, yellow, green for a heliport, and white, green, and amber for hospitals. Can you name what this equipment is?
That the approach indicator.
That's a very good guess. But in fact, it's the airport beacon. Airport beacon. So the approach lighting scheme is usually a more single color and it's not flashing different alternating colors. But the airport beacon you can see sometimes flashing from a distance. So, all right. That was a good guess. Okay, IATA codes, airport codes. We have MCO. Mike, Charlie, Oscar, and you've already guessed it. So
love my folks from Orlando Airport. They've got one of the best ASD teams out there, and they do phenomenal. So they just actually won a major award that I got to hand out at our Roots Americas event in Bogota.
Oh, excellent!
Oh, I knew it so well.
All right.
Okay, I got one right.
Okay, and last is airlines, and this one's a logo. So can you name the airline that utilizes this logo?
It's what region is that from?
It is it's Europe, and I'll go even further. It's in the Mediterranean region.
Oh.
Another hint I'll give you is Kalispera.
No clue. I'm an America's Airlines lady. So I've never seen that.
Ashwin, do you want to give it a guess?
No, I'm a bit confused. Is it Corsica or Aegean Airlines? I'm not sure.
It is. Aegean Airlines.
Aegean
Yes.
Greek. Amazing.
Greek. So Kalispera is Greek. So Aegean.
I hope my Greek airline partners aren't tuning in.
Greek airline. So. Well, very good. Well, thanks for participating, Deanna. You did very well. I think we counted one correct.
As a team, we got 3 out of 5.
Yeah, and some of your guesses were solid partial credit guesses.
Indeed.
Also,
yeah. Thank you. That was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's what it's meant to be, right? It's meant to be just fun, educational. And we all learned something in that. But Peter likes to keep it on the tougher side most of the time. So
he does. I was hoping for heads up or something, but no, that didn't happen. So.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
So I
keep it equal.
Yeah.
Favorite.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun and extremely educational. And like I said, we could talk for another few hours about all of this, and air service development in general is just so important to not only the aviation community, but it has impacts beyond it with economic development and, community engagement and things like that, right? So we're just connecting people all across. So thanks a lot for everything that you do. And thanks for being on the podcast to educate and inspire us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And happy if any of your listeners has questions, reach out, LinkedIn, email, attend a Roots event, rootsonline.com. But do please let me know if you have any questions, and I'm here to help answer because I believe education is key and I love what you guys do. So thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us this week. Send us any feedback, trivia ideas, or future topics you may have to our email at aeropedia.podcast@gmail.com. See you on the next leg of our journey.
Bye for now.
Departure any heavy, contact departure 119.2, good night.
119.2, 290 heavy.